Happy New Year, Dub Nation. What a way to start the year. The Golden State Warriors, a double OT victory at home. The win streak extends to 5. Kylen Mills and I are going to break it all down next. Happy New Year, Kylen, and Happy New Year, everyone. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code Locked On. You can follow Kylen Mills on social media platforms, including Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Kylen Mills. You can follow me on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Kylen, that was a hell of a game last night. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the whole thing. Double OT, your immediate reaction and thoughts, and good to see you again. Hi.
Yeah, good to see you. Happy New Year, Cyrus, and to all of our listeners and viewers. Hope you all are healthy in the beginning of 2023. And what a start for the Golden State Warriors. So initially, like early in the first half, I was kind of flipping back and forth with all that NFL craziness and that horrific injury to DeMar Hamlin, but had to tune in, especially for the second half, which initially looked like it was going to be a collapse at some point for the Warriors. Somehow they managed to battle back and earn, to me, what was just a sheer effort and wanting it more win. I mean, there were times where it wasn't pretty for the Warriors, but they just stuck around. They battled. They never gave up. They never threw in the towel, which I feel like there have been times this season where it really looks like they have when they get down, that they've just kind of given up. And that wasn't the case. They showed a lot of fight. I know we can talk about a number of individual players who were outstanding. Klay Thompson being the main one of them, having a 50 burger was just nice to see for Klay, as I feel like he's been just so up and down, so inconsistent this season and a little bit streaky. And so it was great to see him have a huge breakout night and just look like he was having fun, because I know that's the theme we keep talking about, Cy, is like at times he looks disinterested. And I thought that Klay, and especially throughout this last stretch of games has looked really engaged, and he looked really fired up and like he was having fun. And it showed in his play. He was playing more relaxed. He was playing more free. And the numbers showed that. And then, Kevon Looney, my goodness, 20 rebounds. I mean, seriously, in addition to getting that game-winning putback, I mean, come on. It was just
Incredible.
Fun to watch.
I thought he had 21. Now they're saying 20. I could have swore last night in the box score had 21. I wonder if they took one away or did I misread that? Anyways, yeah, that's the whole game was incredible. If you look at the box score, I mean, it's a good thing the Warriors weren't playing a back-to-back. I have no idea what the game plan would have been at that point, because DiVincenzo, Draymond, Klay, Poole, they each put in 44 minutes plus. Klay and Jordan Poole at 45. So it was, but so the minutes were crazy for a lot of these guys. And then here we are. So I guess the vibe I was getting from the Hawks, at least until it got to overtime, because I thought the Warriors were in control for a large portion of the game, or in various parts, at least until the second half and the third quarter, they rallied back. But the Hawks looked like how the Warriors have looked a lot of the season when they're on the road. And then for some reason they got life. The Warriors started missing shots. I even heard, by the way, I saw someone on Twitter. It was just one person, but it really stuck out. They were criticizing Donte DiVincenzo because apparently his stat line wasn't great. He had 8 points total. He did have 9 rebounds. The fact that he's suddenly emerged as this great rebounder is awesome. But he also hit that game-tying shot to send it. I think either was it overtime or double overtime. So for the few people out there who are haters of Donte DiVincenzo, Kylen, what do you say to them?
I mean, what specifically are they hating on? Like that he's not doing enough? Because like to me, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. He had 2 turnovers, and generally he's a lower turnover player on the team. He's not among the top 3. So like, I just don't know what the complaints are. Is it simply that he's not scoring enough, or that his shooting numbers aren't high enough? Because he hit a shot when it mattered most. And I think to me, that's one of the key things from last night. He hit that 3, and I believe it was his first triple of the game to tie up the score line. And so that's what you want. And it kind of reminds me of Steph Curry, because Steph can have a game where he's ice cold all game, and suddenly when it matters most, he'll just sink a 35 footer. And you're like, where did that come from? Because big players come up in big moments. And I just think Donte DiVincenzo is a winner. And Steve Kerr said the same thing after the game. He was asked specifically about Donte DiVincenzo's ability on the boards and how he's been racking up so many rebounds, especially as of late, which you just mentioned, Cy. And Steve Kerr simply said he just does all the things right, all the things you want as a coach. He's a smart player. He's a champion, and he knows how to win. And so as far as the shooting numbers, I'm not super concerned. I don't think the Warriors necessarily need him to score a ton every night. They need him to do all the other things that he does right. And that's what he brings in the defensive end, what he does on the glass, his facilitating ability, getting 5 assists, I don't think is anything, to overlook. And so I don't know. That's my response to those critics, is that they don't necessarily need Donte DiVincenzo to be scoring a lot every single night. The Warriors have scores. They need him doing what he does defensively. And then, like I said, some of the other things that he does that includes, his facilitating and his rebounding.
Yep. I agree, especially the defense alone adds so much. But the fact that he's a ball handler, he makes clutch shots. A lot of people in the chat, by the way, and I'm seeing this from various people, hating on Jordan Poole. Look, I know the stat sheet didn't reflect necessarily a great game. He didn't shoot the ball great at all. He was 11 for 31 from the field, 2 for 12 from deep. But that second three was massively huge, right? I mean, so the timing of at least of his shots were impressive. He put up 28 points. When you look at his track record over the last 10, 15 games, basically since he's been a starter, his scoring average, I think, is in the high 20s. But look at the chat. People are hating on him. Like Paul Revere writing that every time they see Poole have the ball, he cringes. And even one other like comment saying stats are for losers. He sucks. He was on a world championship team last year. He's almost single-handedly responsible for a lot of these wins. I do not subscribe to the Jordan Poole hate. That every mistake he makes will be corrected with time. He's still a very young player. Kylen, what's your reaction to the people that are just totally upset with Jordan Poole for some reason, even though the Warriors are on a 5-game winning streak?
My reaction to people hating on Jordan Poole and saying that he's a player who sucks, first of all, that's just not the case. He doesn't suck. But here's what I will say in evaluating his play. Jordan Poole has been putting up incredible shooting numbers. He's been scoring a lot in Steph Curry's absence, averaging more than 28 points per game in the last 10 games. The area that Jordan Poole really needs to improve on and needs to be a focus for him moving forward is the turnovers. That has just been so problematic for him. He's giving up the ball way too much, way too easily with unforced errors. Poole's averaging 5 turnovers per game in the last 10 games. That's just not good. Overall in the season, he leads the Warriors with the most turnovers per game with 3.3, or I think it's over 3. Yeah, 3.6, sorry, on the season. He's averaging 3.3 turnovers at home. And to me, that's where I think that he's just, getting subject to so much criticism, is because people are seeing him give the ball away just way too easily. And last night we saw that what could have been a really crucial turnover with just seconds to go, and he just dribbled it off his own leg, lost the handles, lost control. So to me, the big area that Jordan moving forward is trying to take care of the basketball, slow down, calm down. So many times I think he just gets ahead of himself and he gets out of control. And I think there is some validity to those critics and to those comments, and some of the people who are saying that he needs to improve on that area of the game. I think there's validity to that. However, I don't think he's a bad player. I think the Warriors still want him in the game. I think that he obviously makes a huge difference on the offensive end when he's able to score. He's got to take care of the basketball. And then I still just think his defense has ways to go. I mean, there were a couple of times he just got blown by last night by Trae Young or committed a stupid reaching foul. And so I think criticism is fair. I don't think he's a bad player. That's, to me, too far.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And I'm just going to read off real quick his scoring output total since December. So from December 2nd on, this is how many points he has scored per game: 30, 21, 23, 36, 20, 18, 20, 29, 43, 26, 13, and that was in the game at Brooklyn, where he only played 26 minutes, 32, 24, 26, 41 in that Trailblazers game that everyone told me was amazing. I missed that game. And then 28 last night. Those points that he's putting up are absolutely needed without Stephen Curry in there. A lot of those baskets are clutch. One basket that sticks out to me in that game was he was being guarded really effectively by, I think the player's name on Atlanta, I wasn't too familiar with him. Is it Okongwu? Who was just really defensively lighting it up at 3-block shots, was preventing people from attacking the rim. And Jordan Poole was just with lightning speed, blazed by him for this layup that was just really halted. Yeah, the Hawks' momentum, that was huge. He's a clutch player. So I regardless of the mistakes he makes, you're right. He turns the ball over. You can't defend that. But also Stephen Curry also turns the ball over a lot too. Those are just the things. This Warriors team, if there's one thing you just have to live with, it's turnovers. They do that. They will turn the ball over sometimes. They play at such a frenetic pace that it just comes with the turf. And plus, you could tell they're having fun in the process, and that the turnovers are just one of those prices you got to pay for it. But look, they're winning. It's a 5-game winning streak. So I'm not going to hate on Poole. When we come back, though, we got to give some love to Klay Thompson. Got a couple sound bites to play because he scored 54 points, which is absolutely staggering. That's 54 is just nothing at all to sleep on. That's just an absolutely amazing output. But first, got to give some love to PrizePicks. Let me get that overlay going. We got it right there. We'll swap us. And the way I praise PrizePicks for the simple reason that besides the fact that it's legal in California, the premise is simple and it's super fun. You're betting on individual performances. You're picking 2 to 6 players, and you're deciding whether or not they're going to score more or less than a certain amount, whether or not they're going to pass more or less assists, depending on the amount they set. It's just over-unders. That's all it is across a spectrum of numbers. And it I don't know, for me at least, I love it. I haven't had to deposit money yet into my account, which I'm stoked on. And you folks can do the same. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com. Kylen, have you signed up yet? You were talking about this like a month ago. Still no?
I haven't yet, but I will. I had to save some money before the holidays, Cyrus. I was trying to hoard money to buy Christmas gifts, but now that we're in 2023, it's time to get going on the PrizePicks and hopefully make some moolah.
Let me know. We'll definitely have discussions about that when you start. All you got to do is go to PrizePicks.com or download the app, play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. And if you deposit $100, they'll match that. They'll give you $100. If you deposit 50, if you only got 20, whatever the amount, they will match that on that first-time deposit. But you have to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You follow Kylen Mills on various social media platforms at her name, Kylen Mills. Klay Thompson had a marvelous game last night. And why don't we play sound from him? Because these moments are not lost on him either. So this was Klay with the paper airplane. You know it's a good moment when he's got the piece of paper in front of him. That's usually the stat sheet that he just starts folding up. I don't know if it's like a nervous tick. I don't know what's going on when he does that, but it's funny. And here is Klay Thompson.
I definitely am more relaxed than I was in the beginning. I think in the beginning I was just so eager to be back to those big nights like tonight and proving whoever wrong that I'm still great. And now I just it's going by so fast. We're almost at the halfway point, and after this year, there's only 1 year left on my deal. So it's like I just told myself, man, I gotta enjoy every day in a Warriors uniform. This is such a incredible position to be in as defending champions, and to see the banners we've hung and just the brand that's been built here. I just had to remind myself daily, this is literally a dream I'm living, and what matters most is just having fun and playing hard. All the numbers, all the big nights will come as long as I do those two things.
At what point did you kind of have that talk with yourself?
Honestly, I had it a couple days ago. After I had it a month ago. I've had a lot of self-talk like that in the last few years, but it's incredibly helpful. It kind of just puts everything in perspective.
There you go. And as D mentions, it is weird that he brought up the contract. I thought that was kind of unusual. D writes, Klay hinting he wants an extension. He's not slick. Your reaction to Klay Thompson's comments there, and also just his performance last night. The 54 points, again, that is, if Donovan Mitchell did not put up 71 on the same day, that would have been much bigger in terms of news. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Klay Thompson's performance was great. It was much needed in light of how he's been playing this season. Like, I think more than anything, he needed that, like for his own confidence, to be having fun like that, to be wanting. Like I said, I just think his whole demeanor and mentality just seemed different last night. And I think we mentioned it after the Boston Celtics game that you could see just kind of a difference in Klay Thompson's attitude. And I feel like certain games we've seen it, but now it's coming out more and more. And this is a night when the Warriors really needed that from him. So I think it's huge. I think it's huge for his confidence. It's huge for the team's confidence in him. And it was fun to watch for us as fans. And hopefully Klay can continue the upward trajectory. I think it's great. Someone just said Poole's the most overrated player on the team. I think that Klay Thompson was fantastic, but I actually do want to get back. And I do have a counterpoint to Steph or your comments about Steph and Jordan Poole. That whenever you want to get to it, I want to get back to it.
Let's go to it now. Wait, I don't want to disrupt a rhythm. Go.
Okay. Well, so I know you brought up that just the Warriors style of play, the Warriors style of play lends itself to turnovers. They play, a fast-paced offense, and also that Steph Curry does turn the ball over. But Steph Curry also does a much better job of making decisions and then facilitating. And to me, like where you look at the deficiency with Jordan Poole, Steph Curry's assist to turnover ratio is so much higher than Jordan Poole's. Curry is averaging, nearly 7 assists per game. And then, you counter that with the 3.1 assists he's averaging per game. His assist to turnover ratio is still much higher than Jordan Poole's. And also I did want to mention something. First of all, the best assist to turnover ratio is Kevon Looney. Second best on the team is a guy named Ty Jerome, or should we say Cy Jerome. So I don't know. I just wanted to look at that because I thought immediately kind of in my mind, like if you're going to compare Steph and Jordan, I just think that Steph does such a better job of setting up teammates and putting the people around him in good positions to score. And he does that much better than Jordan Poole does. So that's why I wanted to look at that number, because I think that's also relevant when discussing the turnover situation. And I don't necessarily think that everyone should pile on Jordan Poole just because of one bad night or a couple bad shooting nights. I do think someone pointed out in the chat as well, though, he has not been shooting the 3 ball well, and he does need to shoot better. Jordan Poole in the last 10 games is shooting the 3 on average 27%. Like that's definitely not great. Needs to be higher, but it does. Again, I don't think all this means he's a bad player, but I do think turnovers are a big area of concern. Even with the Warriors, averaging a lot of turnovers, I still think that he needs to be improving on that and taking care of the ball. And like a lot of times, I just think they're unforced too, just like based on the eye test. Like he just like dribbles wildly sometimes, throws it away. We saw last night in a critical situation, just kind of getting out of control and dribbling it off his own leg. So I do think there's a little bit more to the story than just, the Warriors turning it over a lot in general. I think Jordan Poole has to get himself under more control.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. It's not fair to compare Steph and Curry to anyone, right? So I didn't mean to like compare these two in terms of Jordan Poole is like, that good. My reference was more toward like what Draymond Green said a couple months ago, where he said the struggles of the bench, this was earlier in the season, a lot of it had to do with the rest of the team not being able to keep up with Jordan Poole's frenetic pace of play, which he compared similar to Steph. And he's a freewheeling type of dude. You're absolutely right, though, that in terms of shooting, he has to improve, particularly from deep, because on the season, he's only shooting 30.9%. Which falls below the Mendoza line of what you want from an outside shooter, which is 33%, which translates to 50% from twos. So 30.9 is not good enough. There's no doubt about that. But his scoring average, which was horrible early in the season, he was at that 15 range, is now above 20 points per game. He's now averaging 20.5. His assist numbers, which are career-wise, are not great. For his career, he averages 3.2 assists. They're up to 4.3. But ultimately, look, he's still 23. He doesn't turn 24 until after the season. He's such a young player. I guess I'm just giving him time, given that every single season he's played for the Warriors, all we've seen is growth. All we've seen is a trajectory with him that goes up. And as anyone should know when it comes to progress is never linear, and it's never going to go in a straight line. You're going to have ebbs and flows, and this is part of the ebbs and flows is him figuring out what the hell's going on with that outside shot. It's very reminiscent to his rookie year and second year where he acted like Stephen Curry's an outside shooter, but that shot was never falling. But now he's developed his game so much that he can make up for those missed shots sometimes. But I agree with you. The turnovers have to go down. The outside shooting needs to get better. But they're winning. They're still winning, and I guess for the people that are like really critical of him, what's the alternative? I guess I always respect criticism if you have a proposal to remedy the situation, because anyone can bitch and whine about things. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. Jordan Poole's playing bad. That's fine. Complain all you want. But what's the solution to it? If you don't have that, the complaints get a little tired. It gets tiring really fast. When we come back, I want to talk about Klay Thompson just a little more, just because that was such a solid game from him. I mean, he's really – we have to have the debate now in terms of whether or not he's like back, because his defense is stout. The touch on his shot is beautiful. It's not just his three-point shooting. He's making short-range shots where he has such control of the ball as he's putting the ball. Like, he looks in control of his game. I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm loving his defense. I'd love to get your opinion on it and read the reaction from everyone else in the chat after we talk about BetOnline. And this is going to be a good segment. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, analysis. We got to get the overlay going. Sorry about that, BetOnline. But there's some new odds that are now available from BetOnline.net. And it's kind of weird. Right now, the LA Clippers are the favorites to win the Western Conference Championship. They are the odds-on favorites. Now, it's worth noting that the odds makers set these lines based on what people out there think, not necessarily what the odds makers think. They want to set a line that's going to present an even amount of bets on both sides. But right now, they list the Clippers as the favorites to win the West. And to make things even weirder, the Phoenix Suns are the favorites to win the division, which indicates that the odds makers think Phoenix will be okay during the regular season, but then the LA Clippers in the postseason will come out of the West representing the Western Conference, which to me is such a blatant slight to the Golden State Warriors, especially when you consider that the Warriors, who are the defending world champions, are just a half game behind the Clippers right now in the standings. Kylen, your thoughts on the odds makers picking the Clippers right now to come out of the West?
Yeah, I actually think that's pretty wild. The Clippers haven't looked great to me, especially recently. They've lost their last 3. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games, I believe. And so I'm surprised by that. What I'm also pleasantly surprised by, I should say, is what you just mentioned, because I do want to talk about the standings a little bit, that the Warriors are right back in it. So Dub Nation should feel very encouraged after winning their last 5 straight and doing exactly what they needed to do on the homestand. This team is an entirely different feel, in my opinion. And now they're knocking on the door of being right back in the middle of the playoff race. Like, a half game is nothing. I mean, they could be in the 5th spot in a couple of days.
Yep.
And so to me, that's, just super encouraging. And honestly, being 4.5 games out of the Nuggets, which are leading the West, like, that's also very overcomeable and very doable. So I think it's very surprising that the Clippers are that high up right now. And I think the Warriors are in a great position moving forward, especially given that they're playing much better without Steph Curry, and they still don't have Andrew Wiggins either.
That's crazy. And they haven't had Jermichael Green. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. And they're missing some. Oh, and Kuminga was out of last night's game with a foot sprain. Wiseman missed the game because of an ankle sprain, I think. They were missing a lot of people last night. That was a thin team. And for the folks in the chat who keep throwing out the Anthony Lamb thing, yes, I will mention him in just a moment. But betonline.net, again, you can get the latest odds, the trends, whatever information you need. You degenerate gamblers, you out there, head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on social media platforms at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Here's Klay's line from last night, which is absolutely staggering. I'm going to play one more soundbite from him as well, where he talks about the 54-point performance. He had 39 field goal attempts last night, and he made 21 of them. Shot 10 for 21 from the field, only had 2 free throw attempts, which is really staggering when you talk about the amount of points he scores. Because the other side of the coin is Trae Young, who annoyingly kept going to the line at the end there with these ridiculous, floppy, gimmicky moves that I have zero respect for. If you can't get away with it on a playground, you should not get away with it on an NBA floor. That is my philosophy when it comes to basketball. It's why I've always had a huge issue with players like Young, James Harden, that do all these ridiculous, like, just head flops, these whipbacks that fool the officials into sending them to the line. Dude, it's absurd, and it's a denigration to the game of basketball. But then on the other side of it, you have Klay Thompson. Again, only 2 free throw attempts, but he scores 54 points, and he had so many clutch baskets in that game, even when he was missing them, like at the end. So this is Klay talking about what that 54-point game means to him, and it meant a lot based on this attribution, especially with Dominique Wilkins, who is, I believe, the color analyst for the Atlanta Hawks. He recovered from an Achilles injury in his career, and Klay did not forget that.
What does it mean to you individually? I mean, this is your first 50 since you came back, obviously.
It's a huge accomplishment for myself. Absolutely big. And just seeing Dominique Wilkins before the game and talking to him, telling him how much of an inspiration he was to me, coming back from Achilles to average, in the high 20s after a decade of playing, that inspired me to be myself. And 54 points is nothing to slouch at, even in a double OT win. Like, there were some hard days for me when I didn't know this would be possible, and to live it in real time, I'm just going to embrace the heck out of it.
It's taken him a long time to get his footing. The issue clearly was conditioning. He didn't go through his normal routine. Pro athletes are creatures of habit. And when a player like Klay is thrown out of his routine, which for him involved pickup basketball, that's also where he tore his Achilles. He now has a mental block preventing him from doing that during the offseason. At least this last offseason it did. I can't blame him personally. When at the beginning of the season, I set an over-under for his point total at 24. And then until very recently, I was starting to waver on that just because he was not the Klay of old until, again, very recently. He's starting to light it up now. In your opinion, Kylen, is Klay back? Like, is this the old Klay? Are you still hesitant to go all in on Klay Thompson's stock? Give us your whole opinion and feedback on Klay Thompson and where he is now.
I think for me to say that Klay Thompson is back 100%, he needs to string together more games like this. Like, I want to see him put together a chunk of strong performances. I just feel like he's been streaky this season, and he's been a little bit inconsistent to where we've seen flashes of Klay of old. We've seen moments of Klay of old, and now we're starting to see it more and more. And I feel like he's just on the cusp of being there. I don't know that I feel like he's 100% there. I think last night's performance was a huge step in the right direction, but now he's got to be doing that consistently on a night-to-night basis. And the Warriors need him to be able to do that if they want to win a championship. And so to me, that's now like the next step in getting back to Klay of old, is now how do I come out and bring that same intensity, knock down shots the way he was last night, not force the game, let the game come to him. Like, how do you do all the things right every single game? And to me, it's just been a little bit too inconsistent. And I think that now that's the next step he needs to take, is being able to play that way and maybe not score 54, but, at least with the same level of efficiency, and to be able to do that on a night to night basis. That's when I feel like I'll say he's 100% back. And I feel like he's maybe a step away from that. Last night, definitely a huge step in the right direction. I just want to see him do it on a nightly basis, because he's just been a little bit up and down. Like, it's like on Wednesday or tomorrow, he could suddenly show up and then go back to the old Klay, 4 shots, miss a ton of shots. Like, I just feel like he still is having some of those nights. And so I want to see him do that now every single night that he comes out there, or at least almost every night. And then I feel like he'll be back.
All right. Yeah. And just to piggyback off that, So Klay is now averaging 20.3 points a game. So he's above 20 for the year in terms of scoring average. Still behind Jordan Poole, obviously behind Steph and Curry. He's third on the team. But over the last 10 games, he's been averaging 25.4 points per game. And this leads into Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb. Let's talk about them for a second, because I feel like what's been afflicting Klay has also been an affliction on those two as well. This 5-game homestand, look, the Warriors are the best team at home this year by far. They're virtually unbeatable. A lot of these games are thrillers. They're close. They're borderline causing heart attacks. But Klay, when Klay was on that 5-game road trip, the one where they just completely tanked, was it 5 or 6? It might have been 6. I can't remember now. But
road trip, they were 1-5, I think.
So 6, yeah. So he played in 4 of those 6 games because he doesn't play in back-to-backs. And his scoring totals were 14, 12, 17, 11. He plays awful on the road. Like, he has not figured that part yet. He's clearly feeding off the home crowd. And that also leads to Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb. Like, these are two players that, for the people who, still say, I've never hated on them. My criticism has always been, I don't like that they're taking minutes away from the 3 lottery picks. But Kerr lately has been doing a marvelous job figuring out minutes for everyone. And it's paying off. So I'm curious to see, though, when the Warriors hit the road next, how those two are going to play, because the Warriors have this huge decision at the 50-something game mark in regard to those two players, Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome. Because if you want to keep both of them, and I'm not opposed to that at this point, Anthony Lamb had a great game last night. In fact, I'll read his stat sheet for you folks out there just to remind you. He played just shy of 33 minutes. Was 7 for 12 from the field, had a couple of huge rebounds, had 7 rebounds total, and then also scored 17 points, hit 2 3-pointers out of 6 attempts. He was solid, nothing spectacular, but solid, right? Great. You did a great job. He certainly, in my opinion, earned a roster spot on this team, in addition to Ty Jerome. But I want to see it on the road. In your opinion, Kylen, why is it so hard for this team to replicate their success that they're having at home on the road? There's the obvious things like feeding off the home crowd energy. But do you think this team is ready? They got 3 more games on this homestand before they go back on the road again. Is this team ready now, you think, when they go on the road next, to finally start winning games on the road? And your thoughts on those two as well. Anything else you want to add? Sorry.
It just, it's the mystery of the season. Why have the Warriors struggled so much? Why are they the worst team, or one of the worst teams, consistently throughout this entire season on the road? I wish I had the easy answer or a clear answer or a thought, because it's baffling. It really is baffling. And you mentioned some of the obvious things, just about travel being hard on the body, and, getting out of routine, sleeping in a hotel, all of the other intangibles that make road games more challenging. You've got the crowd environment and all that other stuff. But for defending champions and players, so many players in the Warriors who've been there before and who've been doing this for years, like, I feel like that shouldn't be a huge factor. Like, they're professionals. So it's a mystery as to what the issue has been with the Warriors. But all I know is they have to figure it out, and they have to figure it out fast, because we're approaching the second half of the season, and you can't just go 1-5 every road trip and then come back and win games at home and expect to come out as one of the leaders in the West at the end of the season. Like, you have to be able to win some games, especially winnable games, as the Warriors have played inferior teams on the road, and yet they just play terrible. So they have to figure it out. And, I thought it was interesting that you mentioned Klay Thompson's road performances just being brutal. And he's got to figure out a way to bring that same energy in other teams' arenas. But I also feel like the Warriors as a whole haven't been doing that. Like, to me, like, the energy level has just been lacking, the hustle, the intensity, the effort in some of these road games. And so somehow within the Warriors, intrinsically, they have to figure that out. Why is it not there when they're playing on the road?
Yeah,
absolutely. But they've got to figure it out, and they've got to figure it out now. I mean, that's pretty simply it. The one thing that I just think is encouraging is the momentum they have right now. Can they carry this and use this to propel them into this road trip? And the fact that they have this momentum, as I mentioned, without Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins. And that's one thing you pointed out, that Steve Kerr has been doing a good job getting everyone minutes. Well, a big reason why is that they're missing, Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins, who typically take up, a huge chunk of minutes every night. So it'll be interesting to see, once they're back, how Steve Kerr continues to try to manage that. And it'd also be interesting to see what the Warriors do with those two-way players. As you mentioned, Cyrus, the 50-game mark is approaching fast. I personally would not be opposed to waiving waiving JaMychal Green to try to make way to either sign one of those two or to sign a big. I'm still not letting go of that, of my dream for the Warriors, of signing a veteran big. And then that would, so by waiving JaMychal Green, that would open up 2 roster spots. They could potentially sign Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb. They could sign one of them and sign a big. I still, like I said, I like the idea of adding a big to this unit, but to me, I don't know. JaMychal Green hasn't brought much to the table. I wouldn't be opposed to waiving him at this point to open up 2 roster spots. I also hate to say it, but like, where is Andre Iguodala at? And like, what's happening with his roster spot? Are there plans for him to play? And so, you know, these are all decisions the front office obviously has to make, but you know, I think that's something that needs to be in the discussion. Like, is Andre Iguodala coming back?
Well, Mac, I mean, we're into the show here, but Mac Bolin writes something interesting. I've not done my research on this, but
Yes,
Mac, is this confirmed, Kylen? You know,
yeah. So he did scrimmage with the Santa Cruz Warriors at a practice. So that's very encouraging, very positive.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like it's been a mystery all season. Once I see him back and in the mix, then I'll believe it. Just because he's missed so much time this season, he missed so much time last season. You know, is he going to be able to come back and be conditioned to contribute in the postseason? Because I just think the Warriors need a big who's going to contribute.
Yeah, I don't expect it happening. I thought, look, that Grizzlies game, I thought Wiseman did fine. I think Wiseman for 10 to 15 minutes a night, you know, as long as you keep playing him, I think I think the team is going to be okay with him. I personally am okay with that as well. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. And look, the Warriors have 3 more home games this year. They play the Pistons tomorrow. They play the Orlando Magic Saturday. That's a nice gap between those 2 games. And then another huge gap. They play next Tuesday at home against the Phoenix Suns. After that game, it's another 5-game road trip.
Yeah.
San Antonio, they better win that game. Okay. Like, that's a huge concern if you go into San Antonio and lose. That's not cool at all. Then they're at Chicago. You should win that game. At Washington, you definitely should win that game. At Boston, at Cleveland. We'll give it. I personally will give a pass if you lose those 2. Although I'd like to see them also step it up there. I mean, they have to show that they can beat quality teams on the road, let alone anyone on the road. So that's the schedule upcoming. Those are your next 8 games on this slate. And look, if the Warriors have another horrible road trip, these questions will not go away. And I really think if that 5-game road trip at the end of it, if you see like a 1-4 output, if you see an 0-5 output, that's where you might see Bob Myers pull a trigger, because this Warriors team cannot sustain a season-long run of being the best home team and the worst road team. You don't win with championships like that. You have to road things. So anyways, with that said, 5-game winning streak, folks. Bam. And what a game last night. I don't remember in my life, I'm not saying this hasn't happened, but as someone who's been watching the Warriors for 35 years and since the mid-'80s, I don't remember ever seeing them win a double overtime win. I don't have any memory of them being in double overtime. I'm sure someone will pull out some stats, but that was rare. And for them to win, man, bravo. Olajuwon. I mean, how does Klay Thompson pronounce that? Luge.
I don't know. Kevon Looney. I don't know.
Every time I want to say it, I always butcher it. I can. Paul Revere already praised Lamb. Shut up, man. Move on, dude. Like, what is your obsession with Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome? Just to finish it up, if you want to know why I'm not all on board, and I will not be all on board with these 2 until the end of the season, is because they don't have rings, folks. The lottery picks got rings. They were starting postseason games. They've earned my trust. These 2 have not, and they will not unless this team repeats as a world championship. So don't expect me to start kissing ass about these 2 two-way players. I like them. I'm cool with them. I'm comfortable with them on this team, but please stop expecting that. And I will not constantly bite the bait for this, but I'll just say this today. They're great. They're fine. I'm not going to complain about them anymore. The negativity is out the window, but I am not 100% sold on these 2 until the team repeats as a world champion. Plain and simple. So if you don't like it, tough. That's how I roll. Anything we got to roll on? Anything else, Kylen, before we wrap it up?
No, I just love it. Y'all are getting Cyrus all riled up. Keep it coming. Keep it
Good
coming.
Good content. All right, folks. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Kevin Dana, I think Wednesday's his usual day. So I'm guessing he'll be on. Nothing's confirmed. Yeah. If anyone has any advice on, and no, look at the people are just like poking me right now. No, Lamb is not better than Moody. Agree to disagree. I would prefer Moses Moody still.
People are poking you now, Cyrus. You gotta just let it go. You gotta let it go.
All right, folks. So we'll be back at it tomorrow. Kylen, are you joining Thursday or Friday? Which one?
Whenever you want. Either
we'll figure
day.
it out. Okay. All right. Well, Happy New Year. My English bulldog is driving me insane. He's a puppy.
You guys go follow Cyrus on Instagram, because I love that your Instagram is now turned into a dog Instagram account for your bulldog. Like, that's all the updates and photos you post, and I'm so here for it. If you want to see Cyrus's adorable new bulldog, you have to find him on Instagram.
There you go. Add Dog Wild. That's my handle there if you want to
right. It's a dog account. It's a dog account now.
It's always been. All right, folks. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kylen, as always. And we'll be at it later.
All right. Later, Side Jerome.